Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome into the Graham Lincoln Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Graham Lincoln Mac Lane. Mac, it's here. We're talking about games today. I don't know if you feel this way, but when we finish up talking about the last game, which this year was, I believe, Florida State, and we don't even talk about what happened in that bowl game, but it just feels like it's going to take so long to get to the next games. Yes. And in some ways it did, in some ways it didn't. I would like to shout out our listeners. From the numbers I'm looking at, Mac, this was our most listened to season preview series ever.
Let's go.
We really appreciate those guys. But hey, we finally get to talk some football.
We're here. Let's freaking go. Week 0. I think, are we the only team on? Is it only ACC teams playing?
And there's a few other little games. I didn't.
G5
that sounded
or something?
Rude, but yeah. There's a few other little games.
Okay, so we're the only games on. Okay, cool, sweet. I love that for us. Here we go. Just kind of take week 0 as a great opportunity. EJ and Taylor are across the pond. They're hanging out with Georgia Tech and Florida State, and I just can't wait to watch that game. The fact that it's at noon, we get to just get right into it, is going to be so much fun. We're going to preview all of that. And, of course, SMU, our new friends, They're playing. They're headed to Nevada, which is going to be fun to break that down as well. But football is obviously the most important thing, KG, but the second most important thing to me, it's tailgating season.
Oh, awkward. Not your family or anything like that?
No, smoking meats. Come on.
Okay.
That's it. You got to be able to feed them. You got to make them.
I agree with that for you.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things because, first of all, you just think of like brisk Saturday mornings and then just the smell of burning wood or charcoal or whatever you like to do on top of some freaking great meat. And listen, if you're rolling into a Clemson game, if you're rolling into anywhere on your way through the upstate, the Virginias, down in Florida, some in Georgia, you got to stop at Ingles, okay? North Carolina. They'll take care of you, all right? They'll make it happen. The best meat selection in all of the land. And so I can't wait all day long. I'm going to have some chicken coming up soon, KG. Probably not this weekend. The schedule's crazy. I'm in and out. But as soon as I get home, that grill is getting fired up, and we're making it happen.
Mac is everywhere. We're going to tell you where he'll be next week because he's going to be at basically every game being played by an ACC team. I, of course, don't have your skills, Mac, but one thing I can do really well is plug in a crock pot. I am really good at that. Perfect. And so the other day, a few days ago, as I was practicing some tailgate recipes, I made some barbecue chicken in the crock pot. It was so easy. You just put some chicken in there. I get the Stubbs barbecue sauce from Ingles, by the way. That is straight up made in Austin, Texas, baby. You can't get better. I get the sweeter one. Pour it in there, then you shred the chicken, and then I got the little pretzel Hawaiian rolls, which are my absolute favorite.
Dang.
Throw a pickle on each of those and had some sliders, and Jacob was shoving the chicken into his mouth. So it worked out great.
I love that.
I know you'd be proud. I told that story just because I knew you'd be proud, Mac.
There we go. Full meat eater effect. I'm in. I'm with it.
He loves meat just like Uncle Mac. Okay.
That's right.
So point is, go to Ingles for all your tailgate needs as we get ready for the season. We really appreciate Ingles and their support. We're also going to talk about our new partner, Underdog Fantasy. Later in this episode, we're going to give you our picks. Those are going to be on social media. Use our code GMPOD to sign up, but we're going to get to that. First and foremost, Mac, let's talk games. Let's get to the first game of 2 that we're going to talk about here, the 2 ACC games, week 0. And this game is being played over in Ireland. Number 10, Florida State is playing Georgia Tech, noon on ESPN. I love the timing for us. I'm not quite sure what time that is over there, but good for us. In the Aer Lingus College Football Classic, Florida State is a 10.5-point favorite. We're recording this on Thursday. The over-under is set at 55.5. Mac, your overall first thoughts on this first game of the ACC season?
Yeah. I think I said this during the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech preview there when we had Coach coming on. This is a sneaky little game.
Yeah.
It really is. And that line has moved a bit. I think it opened maybe at 13 or 14 and down to 10 now, which is it's so fascinating how 10.5. So fascinating how that can move and how that can change and how people get a little excited and they start flowing around. And I think that's a smart thing, because that's a big number because a couple of reasons. Number one, you've got a relatively new team, new offense in Florida State, and
Yep.
DJU leading the way there at quarterback. Obviously, you have the MVP of the ACC championship game coming back in Toll-Feely, but another new running back in Rondell Williams that I think people are really excited about, and just to see how he gets in this unit, and then a wide receiver core that. I mean, we saw Ja'Kai Douglas, kind of flash in one game last year and maybe have some plays throughout. I think it was that Pittsburgh game that he just went off.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, we don't know. There's some older guys that have been around, but are they starting? Are they finally taking that step? I'm looking at Malik Benson from Alabama, who is super, super fast, KG. They think that he can be a guy that really takes it off the top, is explosive, big play, home run threat. Jaylen Brown is another guy that they're really getting excited about. So there's some pieces, kind of throughout this entire deal here that it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they use. Jalen Lucas is another guy that wide receiver, running back, hybrid type, dude that just needs the ball in his hand. So what is it going to look like, ultimately for this team? And, really to me, KG, when I look at just what Georgia Tech was not able to do well last year was stop the run.
Right.
It's just point blank period. I think they were 128th in the country at run defense, which is not good. Florida State, if I was them, I would literally run it until they put 9 people in the box. I mean, I would run it 50 times. That's what I would do. I would lean on my big, massive offensive line, my 2-3 running backs that I feel really good about, and a 6'4", 240-pound quarterback going that way. That's what I would do. That's kind of my big picture. If I'm Florida State, here's the game plan. Line them up, knock them down.
I completely agree, especially because it's your first game. And to your point, Mac, you're integrating all these different weapons. You're integrating a new quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei. Yeah. You've just traveled, to a different continent. So you've got all these factors. But
Not even just a different country, another continent.
Yeah, a new continent, by the way. But I would imagine they ease DJ into this offense a bit. I think you will see some deep shots because we know he can throw a great deep ball. And if they connect on some of those, that may be the difference in the game. But I imagine Florida State is going to run the rock. Toll-Feely, I expect, is going to have a big game, but they also have a bunch of other weapons. And I think they're going to run DJ a decent enough bit, maybe, on a 3rd and 2 situation or goal line situation. That's what I would do. And I think the unit that worries me the most, if I'm just looking at this game from this spread at 10.5, is the Georgia Tech defense. I think the Georgia Tech defense has so much to prove, Mac. Mm-hmm. Can they be better than last year? Most likely, because you could only really go up. And Coach Key was talking about the steps they've made. I get that. But this defense facing an offense that we feel like has quite a few weapons, and of course is going to be called by Mike Norvell, the Georgia Tech defense really worries me in this game. I feel like that could be the factor that tips it towards Florida State.
Right. And it's funny. I'm kind of laying out my game plan for you, but what, honestly, I might do play one if I'm, Florida State. If you get the ball first, is take a shot. I would line up in a heavy,
why not?
Like 2 tight end set or a tight end and a fullback set if you got one. Do a little motion, get some eyes going. Play action, like power to the right, and then have Benson just running a big boy post and just launch it. Just see what happens. And then, play football. Play football after that. Because one, that's got to be great for a quarterback just to let it rip, like just no read. Obviously, if there's safeties hanging out, you don't want to. Yeah. But, you would think with that power look, you're not going to get that. And just if he connects, that could change everything. Change everything. Just from a confidence level. But we'll see. It will be fascinating. But I totally agree with you. I think the unit with the most to prove out of, the 4, we can say 6 if you want to throw special teams in there. Who cares? Those is the Georgia Tech defense.
Teams. We're the worst.
Yeah, we're so bad. I hate it. Who's great about it is Eddie Royal. He loves special teams because he was such a beamer ball guy.
Well, because he went to Virginia Tech, Yeah,
that's what he has to. But, I'm looking at these guys, they get Sylvain back at defensive end on Georgia Tech's defense. Zeke Biggers is huge. I mean, the only guy that's ever made me feel small in my whole life. Romello Heights coming in. They've got some pieces that I know they feel, good about. You have a new defensive coordinator that's been very successful in Santucci. You have arguably one of the best defensive line coaches in college football. Coach hammered on that, and I've heard that from a multitude of people. How much does that matter? How much does that really translate year one? We will see. But that's the group that, I'm watching with, like a super high octane lens, just here we go. What are those guys going to do? Because I feel really good about everybody else, and it's just going to be fun to watch.
It will be the difference maker, truly, if Georgia Tech can put up a fight against this offense. But on the flip side, we know Georgia Tech's offense is going to be exciting. I'm really excited to see this offense take another step, and they were already really good last year. The Haynes and Haynes duo is going to be great. I would imagine Georgia Tech will run the ball a good bit as well. I mean, similar vibe kind of to Florida State, even though they do have a little bit more of a proven weapon on the outside in Eric Singleton, who I'm sure they're going to utilize. Mac, my concern for the Georgia Tech offense, and of course, I know you're going to get into this Florida State defense that has reloaded in a lot of ways with Azariah Thomas, who's, maybe the best overall football player in the ACC. But the turnovers for Haynes King, that he's got to limit the turnovers. I could really see, Mac, maybe one bad pick in this game being the difference maker for Georgia Tech.
Sure. I mean, that's, something where in a game of this nature, that could be everything, especially when you're just handing the ball or giving the ball away. And what's fascinating, when you look at this guy is that, last year he had 15 sacks. He got sacked 15 times, had 16 picks. Like, that's crazy,
And still was super effective. Like, still had a really good year.
Yeah, 100%.
Cut those in half. You can still throw 8 picks. Just cut it in half.
Right. Exactly. So I think that will certainly be a difference maker just to pay attention to, specifically, like you mentioned, that secondary from Florida State. I mean, they're nasty. They're really, really good. And, you bring up Thomas, AT. I mean, he's 6'2", 200 pounds, 190. Like, Jalen Ramsey looking dude. Like, look out. I'm not trying to throw it near 8. And I have a funny little feeling he's going to be falling around probably your best receiver there. But, they have options offensively. I really – it's not that I'm concerned because Florida State really has a nice defensive line.
Yeah.
A lot of people arguing maybe the best in the ACC, just the depth, that they have, maybe headlined by Farmer and Darnell Jackson there. But I don't know. This is a really good offensive line for Georgia Tech. They're going to be able to run the ball. When you have a dynamic guy like Haynes will get out. He's slippery and
he is.
Not even sneaky athletic. Like, that dude is an athlete. He can make things
happen.
Call him
athletic. Let's just
He's
call
athletic.
him.
He's athletic. We don't have to throw any kind of sneakiness in there. But he can extend plays, throw the football really well. And as you mentioned, having a running back as dynamic as Jamal Haynes as well, it favors very well. So the interesting thing to me, KG, is kind of the reverse of what I said about Florida State. If Georgia Tech gets out and scores quickly, and if they're able to move the ball kind of at will, and maybe this defense isn't what we thought, I don't know if Florida State wants this to be a track meet.
Right.
I don't think they're necessarily built for that. I think they want to control it, kind of suffocate you defensively, ground and pound up front. Offensively, I don't know if this gets into the high 30s. I think it favors Georgia Tech a little bit there. And I know that these guys are excited about, their linebacking core and having DJ Lundy back and a transfer that they feel is going to be really good. But I'm probably testing that. I'm probably testing the middle of the field. Like, let me get Singleton in the slot, get him out in space, and let's see. Let's see what you're able to do. And if you'll move AT to a nickel type guy, and does that free everybody else up? So I'm fascinated with it. I thought early, maybe in the spring, summer, that this was going to be a blowout. And I don't know if that's the case. I feel pretty good about this being a really fun, competitive game. And what I hope is, if that is the case, or even if Georgia Tech wins, that people understand, like, they're good. And that's not going to be the narrative. It's going to be all negative for Florida State, and I'm going to have to put on my battle armor and go to war. But just understand, these Yellow Jackets are really good, and they have just a brutal, brutal schedule.
They have a very tough schedule. Okay, Mac, before we give our picks on the number here, I want to give you just a few. I love my nerdy numbers here. Okay.
Hit me with some.
Some of these really blew me away. Georgia Tech is just 1-5 in their last 6 season openers. So keep that in mind. Florida State has won 12 straight games against ACC opponents. You can, take that with a grain of salt because the roster is a bit different. Georgia Tech, though, is quite comfortable as an underdog, Mac. They led college football last year in covering as an underdog. They went 7-2 against the spread last year as an underdog.
Great teams cover.
Which is what they are this year. And then here's the other thing. Under Brent Key, Georgia Tech, they're 9-6 overall under Brent Key, but they're 12-3 against the spread since Coach Key has taken over.
Yeah.
They are 12-3 against the spread.
It's
They
important.
might not win, but they normally cover, Mac.
That's right. They're competitive. They're competitive. Do you think like the board of trustee and the athletic director looked at that? They're like, yeah, you know what? Extend them. We're good.
No,
We're
I
doing this.
I think they look at the 9-6 straight up record, but I think there were a lot of reasons to extend Brent Key.
Do you have anything on ranked teams? He's beaten more ranked teams too, which is crazy. I think it's 3 maybe.
Yeah, that would make, I don't have the number, but that would make sense because some of their losses have really been more head scratching than anything.
Right,
Bowling Green last year, but then you beat Miami in that crazy game. Mac, I'll go ahead and go first here. Ladies first.
Let's go.
I am going to take Florida State to cover. I think everyone is on the Georgia Tech train of Georgia Tech plus 10.5, and the number is getting smaller. And I think this will be a competitive game, but I think Georgia Tech's defense is going to get worn down. I really like Florida State's ability to run the ball, maybe run some clock at the end of the game and extend that margin of victory with a score in the last couple of minutes in order to cover. So I see Florida State winning by 13-14, something like that. But I think it's going to be closer throughout the game. So give me Florida State minus 10.5.
I like that. And I'm going the same way. I'm going to go backdoor cover. I think it's a, kind of last couple of minutes touchdown to kind of seal the deal.
Game.
Close. Uncomfortable game. Good game. Fun game. Yeah. But for all those reasons you just said, I'm thinking fourth quarter, that's when the Noles can separate. That's when the run game, the offensive line, as you mentioned, that defense is going to be a little tired having dealt with that all game. And I think they just run it and just lean on those guys. And, really, if they can rush for like 250 this game, I think that's kind of where they want to be. And maybe even more, honestly, if they kind of do what I said and run it, 30, 40 times, maybe 40 plus, then you're like, okay, that better be a guarantee. But that just feels like the game plan to me. And for a lot of different reasons, but ultimately because you can and you can play bully ball. And we'll talk about that with a couple of teams next week as we go into week 1. But I feel pretty confident in that. Again, I think Georgia Tech has a chance to have a really good year. That just might not be reflected in the win column, which is hard to understand it sometimes.
Yeah. But would I be shocked if Georgia Tech wins? I wouldn't. I wouldn't be shocked. I think if Haynes King goes off and this offense can really get going and they can maybe force some Florida State turnovers, it could be interesting. I think under the 55.5 though, I could even if Florida State wins, even if you think it's closer and Florida State wins 30-21 or something, per my quick math, that is still under. So I think, please double check me on that. I think the under is where I would lean, Mac.
Yeah. And again, I like that too. And if it gets above that, then let's go Jackets. Let's roll. Because I think that they're rolling in that factor. So I'm right there with you. Biggest keys of the game, running the football. If you're Florida State, protecting the ball, no silly turnovers, bad passes, ricochets off guys, fumbles, things of that nature. Georgia Tech stopping the run, and same thing. The turnovers in this are going to be huge.
Completely agree.
Whoever, most of the time it's that way, but whoever gives the ball away, I just have to feel the other has the opportunity to play keep away.
Mm-hmm. Mac, did you know that Georgia Tech's punter, David Shanahan, is from Ireland? Have you seen this?
I actually did know that. I didn't know
He is from Castle Island, County Kerry, Ireland.
How many tickets?
To be the first ever Ireland native to be on scholarship in college football history.
Wow. Shout out to that guy. How many tickets does he have for this game?
I bet all of County Kerry
how about
is coming.
How about requests? Give me a number on requests you think, and then total tickets. And we'll find out. We're going to get this information.
50? I bet he's got like 50 people coming.
50 requests?
At least.
Oh, 50 coming. Did 100 people ask, or did he get all 50?
Oh.
50 asked, 50, he got them.
I don't know. I'm going to say 50. I don't know if everyone in Ireland's like, number. Football? What is this?
No, they want to support
They're
their guy.
Probably confused.
No. They're going to be all in.
They're going to expect a soccer game.
I think that's probably close. I think the most I ever had was probably around 40, and that was sick. That was awesome. And that was like the Georgia game in 2014. Really weird. Really weird. I don't know how I pulled it off.
Great game.
We made it happen.
Not great at the end, but I was
terrible.
There.
We'll talk about that
It was fun. All right, Mac, we will get to Georgia Clemson next week, obviously, and so many other games, but we have to talk about one of our newer members. SMU is traveling out to Nevada. This game is at 8 p.m.
Balloons, no.
Of course, the balloons are coming. 8 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. Last I saw, SMU favored by 25 points. The total is at 56.5.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Nevada went 2-10 last year.
Sweet.
They only averaged 17.3 points per game last season. Fun fact, though, Pat Garwo, former BC running back, and Chubba Purdy, former Florida State quarterback, are on their roster, but not high on the depth chart. So
I'm going back to the okay, he wasn't there. He's been gone for a while. I was going back to the bowl game to see if Garwo played against SMU this past bowl season.
No,
he's been gone. Yeah. He's been out of there. Yeah, here's the deal. Welcome to the league. Everyone's excited to see you. And what an opportunity to put on a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just to wear that ACC logo in your first contest and just dominate a team. I mean, I cannot wait to see it. I did think the game was at 9 o'clock, so I'm relieved to see that 8 o'clock. I don't know where I got 9 from.
I hope that was right. 8 Eastern.
No, it is.
So
it is. Yeah, it's
6
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. Yeah. So this is fantastic. Maybe even 5 in Las Vegas. Time zones. We're going one way, we're going the other way. Who knows? Both of these games in different time zones from the East
Literally.
Coast. We're struggling. But yeah, I think what a cool opportunity again for SMU. Show off that offense. I expect to see both quarterbacks just because the way the game's going to be. The interesting thing will it be how early, and is there a bit of a design to do it? Where they're kind of, all right, Preston, you go do the first 2. Here you go. KJ, you do the other 2, and go from there. I don't know.
But what again, does that? If they do that, what does that mean?
I still think it's a bit of a reward situation. I don't think there's any question in Coach Lashley's mind that Preston's the guy. I think he's proven that. I think he's showing it. But I think when you look at what Kevin Jennings has been able to do, winning them a championship, stuck around, wanted to be in Dallas, just let him play. It's all good. All good. Hopefully it's 14-0 at that time and you're rolling. Hopefully it's not like a turnover, they score, and you're like, all right, Kevin, it's your turn. Go do something. Then he explodes, and then it's like, okay, maybe we do have something going on here. But I feel pretty confident in this team, honestly. When for me, it's so many great pass catchers, and it was funny. We spoke to Elijah Roberts the other day on ACC PM, and just kind of got his thoughts, and he was so complimentary of all the guys. We kind of asked him, about the offense and what he's seen, and he said all our receivers are so good. And it's true. I mean, I was there to see those guys in person. But, I think when you get past, Smith and Brinson and Bailey, those guys, and even some backups behind them, Hudson, I know is another guy they're really excited about. To me, it's all about RJ Maryland and what can he do at the tight end position. I mean, he is such a versatile piece where it just allows you different flexibility, and strategy-wise for one-on-one matchups. We can stick him out wide, try to get a corner on him, and just play bully ball. We can put him in the slot, maybe get a linebacker who's not fast enough to guard him, or in the backfield, just try to hide him, disguise things. And you don't have to substitute to do any of that. And so what that does is it puts the defense in a pretty adverse situation where they have to keep the same people on the field, even though you can show drastically different looks. And guys get tired, we can keep rolling. It just kind of helps you that way. So excited to see that. Excited to see what Brashad Smith can do. The transfer from Miami, who is Mr. Do-It-All. Whether is that strictly at running back, or does he kind of move around like he did at Miami, play a little receiver, return specialist, line up in the backfield as well. So feel really good about this offense and the explosive nature that we're going to see, KG.
I had RJ Maryland written down too, just because I want to see him take another step. I think he's such a unique weapon that SMU can utilize. And of course, Rhett Lashley was so high on him when we talked to him. Mac, I agree with everything you're saying here. I'm a little worried about the number.
Oh,
25 points is a lot of points on the road.
We're running it up.
In some sort of altitude. I don't know the altitude of wherever Nevada is, but
it might be lower. It might be like Death Valley,
I would guess maybe not. I don't know. We should know this, but you can look it up yourself.
Gravity actually ramping up, like guys are going to be slower. Is that what you're worried about?
I don't know. It's a road game. It's your first game. And I think SMU, could they feel a little bit more pressure as an ACC, like their first ACC game? Like we got to go show up and show out. We'll see if that is a factor.
Are you taking Nevada? Are you disgracing your Texas brethren?
In the end, I think Nevada is just that bad. I'm going to take SMU to cover, but the number worries me. And Mac, this is what set me over the edge here and made me take SMU. Nevada has failed to cover the spread in 9 of its last 11 home games.
Of course.
Bruh.
Of course. Getting ran out of the gym.
I am not riding with that. Okay. So I think SMU covers the number here.
That's amazing. You took us on an emotional trail there.
I
I was
know.
getting a
Sorry
little
about
worried
Got to
for
keep
our
people
fellow
interested.
Texans, our fellow Dallas Metro people there. No, I'm right there with you. I think that I get what you're saying and totally understand that. But first game, everybody's back. There's no question
Yes.
marks.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of butterflies for Preston just because it's his
Sure.
first game back since injury. But everything I saw in camp, calm, cool, collect, dude makes plays, really understands the offense. We sat down and did film with him, and it's just 1, 2, 3. Here's what you're looking at. Okay, here's what the defense showing me. Bam, this is where I'm going with the football. And like I said, everybody's back and cooking there. On top of, I don't think it's necessarily pressure or nerves. I think it's excitement to be like, hey, look at us. This is what we're bringing. This is what we're trying to do. And I hope they use that positive. I certainly can see how it could be a bit overwhelming. Not saying that they'd lose in any stretch, but 25 points is a lot. I think they take that, put on a show, score number. I mean, they might score 70, against these dudes. It's going to be that type of track meet. And I think in this new world where you got to show off and prove and show that you belong, run it up, and again, your backup you think is as good as a starter. So when you put him in, we're not slowing down. We're running our offense. And so I feel pretty confident about the Mustangs doing their thing there as well, KG.
I'm excited to see SMU in action as a member of the ACC. All right, Mac, let's get to our final segment of the show here. And these are our picks by Underdog Fantasy.
Come on.
And Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Get the app now. Use our code GMPOD, GMPOD. It is so much fun. I had so much fun looking at the picks for both of these games, and there's still time to get in there. You can also do in-game as well. So make sure you download the app. And Mac, we need to give out our picks. How many do you have? I have 3. You always, I feel like,
let me pull up. I just, I like to win money, and you got to be risky. You got to get it in there. Before we even get into what the picks are, let me pull them up and just see what our options are, so I can share this good news with the people.
And there's so many ways you can go.
There's so many,
ton of options.
And that's what's so fun is literally. So you click on. So there'll be different little tabs or buttons, whatever you want to call it. Click on college football, and then for this. I think that's all you can see is SMU and Florida State here. That is. I'm looking at it here.
And this is a good week to start, Mac. It's a good week to start because there's only a few options, That's
right. It's exclusive to the ACC, and there's not, crazy amount of options for you here. So let's say you're a Florida State fan. Let's go look at DJU. He has like 15 different things you can pick. But the little kicker, which, sometimes I get a little frustrated at, you can only pick one per player. So you can't just go ham on one guy doing his whole thing. So if you look at your guy, DJU, for Florida State fans here, and I see that I want to pick rushing or receiving touchdowns, it's at one half. So if he gets one, you're over. You're doing your thing. It's higher there, and you're able to really capitalize. And it's a little bit of a hot thing too. So you get more. People are seeing
it's spicy.
Maybe he won't
There's
do
a little
it.
spice.
It's spicy. That's right. So there's so many different options. When I look at these, I went with DJU. I think he's getting that rushing, touchdown there or rushing yards. You can go with that one as well. Haynes King, I combine the two. You can do both with passing and rushing over 230. I feel really good about that. And then my guy Lawrence Toafili getting into the end zone for sure. It's a lot.
All right, I like those, Mac. I think I stayed away from the overall touchdown ones because. That's something, you have no control over any of this, obviously, but that's something you really don't have control over. What if Mike Norvell just picks someone else, right? So that stresses me out, but, I wish you luck. My picks are, I'll start with my positive ones. I have Toafili higher than 42.5 rushing yards. Yeah. I think that may
Slam
be
dunk.
The easiest one there. I have DJU lower than 30 passing attempts. I do not see him passing the ball over 30 times. I think they run it a good bit. And then, sorry, Georgia Tech fans, I have Haynes King higher than 0.5 interceptions. Not saying he's not going to play well, but until proven otherwise, like we said, he threw 16 picks last year. I'm going to take him to throw at least one pick. He takes risks. That's part of what he does.
Sure.
And the secondary is obviously really, really good. I'm going to take him to throw at least one pick in this game. But guys, get to Underdog Fantasy, download the app, use our code. You can get up to $250 in bonus cash. That's what I was trying to say from your first time deposit. So make sure you use our code, sign up, and let's have some fun this season with Underdog Fantasy.
Come on, guys. Let's do it. We're here. We're kicking it off in a couple of hours. Cannot wait. We need your help. Go over to YouTube, subscribe, leave some comments, jump on this train with us. Let us know your picks. Underdog Fantasy. What are you feeling? You higher, lowers, anywhere you want. all these great players. And of course, big shout out to our friends over at Ingles. Couldn't do any of this without them. So very grateful for our partners there, and grateful for you guys always. So appreciate you coming on this journey. But until next time, we'll see y'all.